Hello and welcome to Aso Morning today. My name is Usman Katun Omar. Of course, Aso Morning is our flagship program where we get to bring you an array of segments that are geared towards enhancing your understanding of issues affecting Nigeria, Africa, and indeed the whole world. Of course, as usual, today on our menu, we have the newspaper review segment coming up shortly after this time out, which will be followed immediately by our first interview of the day, and thereafter we'll join Dr. James Komalafe and his team for the behavioral check segment. And there is also the Investment Plus segment where we get to learn a thing or two about financial management. And of course, hopefully we hope to have another interview before we call it a wrap on the program for today. But before then, do stay with us. We'll go on this short break. When we come back, it will be time for newspaper review.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be wielded by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of Aso Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, Aso Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
You're welcome back from that short break. Of course, it's now time for us to take a look at some of the stories that made the front pages of our national dailies. And today we are beginning with, of course, the Daily Times. The Daily Times this morning is stating that beginning with looting of foodstuff. Atiku warns on imminent disaster as Obi slams federal government over Ukraine's grain donation. Looting of foodstuff, Atiku warns on imminent disaster as Obi slams federal government over Ukraine's grains donation. Detail of this is on page 5, but the meat of the story is, of course, arising from the incident over the weekend where some warehouses were attacked within the nation's capital, warehouses belonging to the Federal Capital Territory Administration's Agric and Rural Development Secretariat, where the foodstuff were stored, and most of those foodstuff were actually part of the palliatives that the government was storing for distribution to residents of the Federal Capital Territory. But unfortunately, some hoodlums hiding under the canopy of hardship that the entire country is going through decided to attack these warehouses and carted away not just the food items in there, but also the windows, the doors, including the roofing sheets, you can imagine. And of course, arrests have been made by the police, but the leading opposition candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, this morning is warning on imminent disaster, that if things were to continue the way we are going, definitely we are quoting disaster, meaning that in no distant time, things will definitely get out of hand if things are allowed to continue to go this way. Then the candidate of the Labour Party, talking about Mr. Peter Obi, in the concluded presidential election, is against the federal government accepting a donation from Ukraine. If you know very well, Ukraine is the country that produced the largest volume of wheat anywhere around the world. And even though they are in crisis, Ukraine is still reaching out to countries around the world whom they feel need this assistance. Nigeria is part of those countries, and they donated. Not that the federal government asked for it, but Ukraine willingly, voluntarily donated grains to Nigeria, and of course Nigerian government accepted. But in the wisdom of Mr. Peter Obi, this is not to be so, that Nigeria government should be ashamed of collecting grains from a country that is in war. Of course, this has sparked a lot of debate. This has sparked a lot of questions on the character of Mr. Peter Obi himself, because you ask, okay, so if Ukraine, what should the Nigerian government told Ukraine? That they should take their grains back, we don't need it. Don't we actually need it? And did Nigeria ask, the question that should be asked is, did Nigerian government ask for help from Ukraine? The answer is no. Did Ukraine willingly, voluntarily offered to donate these grains to Nigeria? Of course, yes. And the Nigerian government, federal government, accepted this donation. And of course, Mr. Obi has gone to town to say that it's a shame that the federal government is accepting grains donation from a country that is in war. Well, that is up for debate, politically speaking, because of course you must also remember that for opposition, definitely anything is open for debate. Everything is open to be looked at from the political prism. But in reality, of course, Nigeria needs these grains at this time. And if a country is willing to donate, not just Ukraine, any country for that matter, even if Palestine, that is undergoing war with Israel at the moment, even if they decide to donate, why not if not? So, but like I said, that is open for debate and is open for conversations, as we always do in this country. But the reality speaks for itself. A couple of other stories on the front page of the Daily Times. Federal government targets $8.79 trillion global business process outsourcing market. Of course, this is another story, talking about what the federal government is projecting. $8.79 trillion US dollars global business process outsourcing market. Detail of this is within the pages of the Daily Times newspaper. A couple of other stories below the front cover picture of the Daily Times, which is of course looks like an illegal refinery that had been destroyed by Nigerian operatives in Brass, Bayelsa State. There are stories there. Court adjourns Kanu's $1 billion suit against until March 18. Detail is on page 2. Court adjourns Kanu's $1 billion suit until March 18. Detail is on page 2. Equities market begins week on bullish note as investors gain. You can check out the detail of this on page 14 of the Daily Times. And Tinubu returns from Qatar. Of course, Mr. President has returned from the business summit that he went for in Qatar, where about 7 bilateral agreements were signed between Nigeria and Qatar in the areas of solid minerals, gas, education, tourism, and a host of others. Of course, Mr. President had gone there to market Nigeria as the country that offers best return on investment anywhere in the world. Definitely. And of course, very soon, as the President said, we should expect this investment from the Qatari investment community in Nigeria in some of these areas that we have mentioned. Down below there, you have Wigwe Dangote Edu, Cardoso, AFDB President, others pay tribute. Of course, Hubert Wigwe, we're still talking about it, the CEO of Access Holdings, owners of Access Bank, who died in a helicopter crash some weeks ago, held yesterday, and a number of dignitaries across Africa attended, and Of course, Dangote is said to have renamed a street within his refinery after Hubert Wigwe. And a number of other people who have also spoken about the gentleman, may he so rest in peace, had very positive things to say about the late banker. And then above the masthead of the Daily Times, final story from the Daily Times, federal government kickstarts public hearing on national minimum wage. Federal government kickstarts public hearing on national minimum wage. Of course, recall that about weeks ago, federal government set up a tripartite committee that is to look into the issue of setting a new national minimum wage, which the president promised will reflect the current realities of Nigerian workers. The labor leaders, that is NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress, had demanded that the basic minimum wage any worker in Nigeria should take home from going forward, based on the current reality, should be around 1 million naira. Of course, whether that is realistic or not, that has been the proposal of Nigeria Labour Congress. Public hearing is set to commence so that they can take input from other stakeholders, and at the end of the day, a report will emerge and a decision will be taken as to what would be Nigeria's new national minimum wage. Quickly, we move to the next paper for the day, which is the Daily Trust newspaper. The Daily Trust is leading with this story. Cardoso warns Nigeria on debt risks. With riders, federal government states owe 139 trillion naira. Another rider, debt rose from 2.1 trillion naira to 87 trillion naira in 24 years. Of course, that is an update there from the governor of the central bank, warning that Nigeria's debt risks is becoming alarming and becoming unsustainable. I mean, federal government and states are owing 139 trillion naira. Wow. Debt rose from 2.1 trillion naira to 83 trillion naira in 24 years. That's quite huge. We hope that this does not go on to affect the economy badly and make it worse than it already is. Of course, above that, you have, below the masthead of the Daily Trust, you have Daurawa settles with Kano governor, returns as Hisbah commander. You know, yesterday we talked about this when indications emerged that Sheikh Aminu Daurawa, the leader, the head of the Hisbah commission in Kano, which is the morality police, if you like, in Kano, after an incident that involved arresting some wrongdoers, and then at the end of the day, the governor, instead of calling the man or writing to the man as it ought to be, decided to go public with his reservations about the modus operandi of the commission, that is the Hisbah operatives. The man, that is Sheikh Aminu Daurawa, felt that wasn't right, and he indicated interest to quit the job. But of course, a lot of people prevailed, and thankfully, we are reading now that he has settled with the governor. And as far as that is concerned, we hope that, of course, we don't get to see a repeat of an incident like that, because it's truly disheartening that you appoint someone to a public office, and because you have reservations about how the duties of the lieutenants of the leader are carrying out the operatives, you as a governor, instead of calling the man, because you have every means to reach out to the man in private or even officially through a written letter, but you decided to go publicly to the gallery and said some words that are actually not so suitable of a man of that caliber. But thankfully, for the good of the good people of Kano State, we hope that this settles it all, and going forward, the governor will be more cautious, and of course, the Hisbah commission also will, of course, take corrections, especially with regards to how they carry out their operations. Moving on, private sector weak as economy declines by $44 billion in 2023. This is from NESG. Then Detail of this is on page 23 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And then 17 killed in Zaria, Kano, Abuja, Lokoja road crashes. Very unfortunate there. Still recording deaths as a result of crashes on our roads. And then, of course, IGP bars POS operators from police stations nationwide. This got me giggling when I saw the story earlier. IGP bars POS operators from police stations nationwide. I mean, why should the IG do this to us? The police needs POS operators within in and around. You never know when you may need quick cash, and you may need to use the POS. But of course, the IGP, on a serious note, have his reservations about the operations of some of these POS operators, because he says some of them actually serve as informants to enemies of the state, and therefore should not be allowed anywhere near police stations to operate. But we hope this is for the good of the country. U.S. elections, Supreme Court clears Trump for primaries. Finally, this has been long coming. Of course, the Republican candidates, Trump, everybody knew that regardless of all the legal tussles that he was going through, the man would scale through, and he eventually did. He has now been cleared to contest as presidential candidate under the Republican Party for their primaries, rather. Of course, he will have to scale through the primaries before heading to the polls to face any of the candidate that will be contesting. Well, moving on, healing masquerades go to church with native doctor for Thanksgiving. Healing masquerades go to church with native doctor for Thanksgiving. Detail of this is on page 20. Of course, this is news, really. I mean, you very unlikely people in very unlikely places. We will be asking what's a masquerade and a native doctor doing in church. These are two entities that have nothing in common, but here we are. Of course, sometimes the elements may align, and you will have no choice than to obey the superior power. We hope that that goes well for everybody at the end of the day. Now, below the bottom page of the Daily Trust, you have children starving to death in northern Gaza hospitals. This is coming from WHO as a result of the ongoing invasion of Israel in the Gaza Strip and the bombardment, ceaseless bombardments going on there, targeting hospitals now. Children are dying of starvation in northern Gaza hospitals. We only hope and pray that these needless killings come to an end as quickly as possible. Moving on to Blueprint newspaper this morning. Blueprint is also starting from where we left off on Daily Trust. Children dying of hunger, dehydration in Gaza. This is coming from WHO. With rider, families eating leaves or animals feed. US laments. Another rider says women giving birth to malnourished babies without medical care. Like I said earlier, hospitals became targets for bombardment by Israeli forces who have invaded the Gaza Strip of Palestine. And of course, when hospitals are attacked, definitely it is the patients who suffer, and children particularly, because even aid, food aid, medical aid, and whatever aid has not been allowed into that area by the Israeli forces. And this, of course, has wrought untold hardship on the people. Definitely, we hope that this crisis, as quickly as possible, comes to an end. Then above the masthead of the Blueprint newspaper, Ramadan, Emir of Kano urges traders to reduce prices of foodstuffs, others. Of course, Ramadan is about a week away, and the Emir of Kano, Alhaji Aminu Bayero rather, of course, has decided to call on his subjects to please reduce the prices of foodstuffs and others, because the practice has been that people will hoard these items, this foodstuff, and wait for Ramadan. And when Ramadan comes, a period that you're supposed to show mercy to other creatures of God, you decide to use that, to take that opportunity to make more profit by inflating your prices. and because people have no choice than to buy, people are forced to, of course, buy this food stuff from you at that whatever rate you give. This is a clarion call to all from the revered traditional ruler, the monarch of Kano, calling on traders to reduce, please, for the sake of God, reduce foodstuffs and prices of other commodities that people may need. Then, of course, we learned that the president is back from Qatar. That is the president there in the picture with the Qatari Minister for Foreign Affairs, and then, of course, Nigeria's own Minister for Trade and Industry. Right there before the president departure of Qatar to Nigeria last night. Bad subscribers didn't get cleared verified NIN. This is coming from NCC. A number of people now are at loss as to why they can't be able to use their SIM card. Of course, this is as a result of the directive from NCC that if you have not, aligned your SIM card with your national identity number, that is NIN, NCC has directed the telecom providers to bar your line, and the numbers that have been barred are in millions. So if yours is among, NCC is explaining to you that your number did not get cleared verified NIN. So it insists information provided for NIN SIM differ, meaning that information provided by some people as like the NIN that some people submitted were actually not the verified ones, meaning that the possibility of you having fake NIN number is also very possible. So you can go get that sorted out so that you can have your line back when the window of extension is opened again. 13 dead, 25 injured in Zaria-Kano Expressway auto crash. This is coming from an official. We've touched on this before. Reps to issue arrest warrant against Binance Chief Executive Officer. Detail is on page 16. Oyo butchers increase prices of beef, goat meat by 100%. Of course, this is not surprising. With prices of everything, you can go to market in the morning and get a price at 10 naira. Go back there again in the afternoon, you may end up buying it at 20 naira. That's the times that we are in. 70% financial crimes traceable to banks. This is coming from EFCC chair. 70% financial crimes traceable to banks. Can you argue that? I doubt. It's very difficult to argue against. We've said it here times without number that most of these financial crimes by politicians, by whoever, there is no way that you can wash off the hands of banks from all of this. And that's why Professor Uchi, a professor of economics, yesterday, I think, he was on one of the national dailies, national TV, explaining that he was reacting to the revocation of 4,173 licenses of Bureau de Change operators by CBN. And he said the CBN shouldn't just stop there, because most of this mushroom 4,173 BDCs, who he called portfolio BDCs, actually are tied to bankers. The bankers have a full knowledge of their existence, if that is, if they are not even the owners of some of these BDCs that have no traceable addresses and all of that. So this is not too far from the truth. EFCC chairman has also come out to say that 70% financial crimes are traceable to banks, meaning that if you want to really tackle financial crimes in Nigeria, your searchlight must also be strictly on Nigerian banks. We hope that this is taken by all the authorities that ought to take them and do the needful. Below the masthead of the blueprint, you have Navy nabs crude-laden Ghanaian vessel, 13 crew members. Detail is on page 7. CBN reviews plans to settle 1.64 trillion naira TBS in second quarter. African Games, 358 athletes to represent Nigeria in 25 sports. This is coming from local organizing committee. We wish them all the best. And quickly, we move over to the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper is leading with this story. 198,432 pending court cases leave many in jail. Businesses stranded. 198,432 pending court cases leave many in jail. Businesses stranded. Of course, we've said it before, awaiting trial cases in Nigeria are very, 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 very alarming. Very, very alarming. People who are sent to prisons to just go and await trial end up spending more time awaiting trial than the time that they would have spent to serve jail terms. And nothing is done thereafter as a way of compensation for a country where you have 198,432 pending court cases. Definitely, these cases are tied to human beings who are in jails awaiting trial, as they say. So it's really, really saddening. The Guardian has this infographic. Nigeria spends 5,412,400 naira daily to feed 54,124 awaiting trial inmates. Court of Appeal has 39,526 pending cases. 144,910 lingering at Federal High Court. FCT Magistracy has 13,996 pending cases covering civil, criminal matters. You can see all the details there. It's quite unfortunate, and we hope that the reforms being carried out in the judiciary will target all of this, so that we can have the barest number of people spending time awaiting trial in our jails. I can imagine the amount of money being spent on daily basis to feed these people. Stop proliferation of arms, light weapons. Tinubu tasks AU, UN. Detail of this is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Monetary tools can't solve food price crisis. Additional, that is the president of Africa Development Bank is insisting there. Furor over new tax regimes, stiffer enforcement in Enugu. FG to begin grains distribution, insist warehouse looting criminal beyond hunger. Review Orosanya report before implementation, civil servants tell federal government. Looting food warehouse, reflection of hunger, frustration of Nigerians, says INC. Of course, divergent opinions there, particularly about the looting of warehouses, particularly the ones we saw in some of the warehouses over the weekend in Abuja. But before then, there were also attacks on warehouses and even trucks conveying foods in some states of Nigeria, including the southwest and even in Kaduna, where we heard about, we saw what happened in Zaria, where a Boa truck that was conveying food was attacked, and of course all the material items it was conveying were looted by the hoodlums. Whether it is hunger, whether it is anger, whether it is deliberately criminal, I'm sure the law enforcement agencies who are making arrests will definitely tell us what these are. But like we said on this platform, there is simply no justification for criminal act. You can't go, attack somebody's property, steal their property, and when you are asked, you say it was because you are hungry. Particularly the one that happened in Abuja here, where not just the food items, but including windows and doors and even roofing sheets were carted away. One begins to ask, what has hunger got to do with all of this? But like the Minister of State, Dr. Maria Mahmoud, said when she visited DD, that this is not hunger. This is simply and purely criminal. And whosoever is involved, when they are caught, definitely they will face the full wrath of the law. Now, of course, the Guardian newspaper still have a couple of other stories which we've already mentioned, but they also reflect on other papers. So let's quickly go over now to the next paper, First News. And First News is leading with a story from the National Assembly. Senate set to grill CBN officials over 30 trillion naira Buhari loans. With rider to commence probe this week, summons relevant officials. may invite Emefiele later. Emefiele again, being said to be invited by the Nigerian Senate over 30 trillion naira Buhari loans. That's quite some money, and whosoever is tied to this loan should be invited to explain to Nigerians how these monies were borrowed as loans and what they were used for. And then we can begin to see what 30 trillion naira loans under President Muhammadu Buhari was used for, so that if we are not seeing them before, they should be able to show us. And if the monies are still intact, then we should be able to get them back and plow them back to the economy. After all, we need them very, very, very much at this point in time. Below the masthead, you have ban on POS, others in police stations still in force. IGP warns. CBN warns Nigeria, others on new debt risks. Dangote names 120-kilometer refinery road after Wigwe. Abuja warehouse looting beyond hunger. Criminal, FCT minister says. SIM-NIN linkage. NCC gives update on 11.2 million blocked mobile lines. Besides the masthead, you have Silver 6 disbandment of Bayelsa Governorship Tribunal over bias. Petitions appeal court precedent. Of course, you have Obaseki knocks CBN's new policies, says they can't support your economic growth. And below the front page picture, on the front page of First News, you have Edo Guba, Obaseki Assembly plot to impeach Deputy Governor as 12 lawmakers sign Shaibu's impeachment notice. Another rider, Governor secures Oshomole's support to recruit APC lawmakers in impeachment process. Last rider on the story, Assembly to move impeachment motion Wednesday. Akeredolu's family in disarray over Ayedatiwa's Guba ambition as widow blasts in-law for backing incumbent governor's campaigns. More troubles for Binance as reps summon CEO's arrest over illegal tax evasion, money laundering in Nigeria. And finally, Tinubu returns to Nigeria after a 2-day visit to Qatar. And that's the much we have for you on the front page of First News newspaper. We quickly move to The Nation. And The Nation this morning is leading with this story. Government takes minimum wage talks to Nigerians in zones. Of course, we say that the public hearing over the new national minimum wage is set to commence within this week. Below the masthead, you have U.S. Supreme Court clears Trump to contest against Biden. Detail is on page 28. Why telecoms barred 40 million telephone lines. And above the masthead of The Nation newspaper, tearful Dangote immortalizes Wigwe. Of course, road named after him, 120-kilometer road, refinery road of Dangote in Lagos has been named after Hubert Wigwe, the late CEO of Access Holdings, owners and operators of Access Bank, who died in a helicopter crash in United States of America weeks ago. Transcorp Power hits 2 trillion naira on listing rally. Firms target 500 billion naira. Akeredolu's wife blast in-law for backing Ayedatiwa. Pleased to arraign 15 for Abuja warehouse looting. Of course, we got information that the police in Abuja, in FCT, have already actually arrested 15 people that are connected to looting of some of the warehouses in the nation's capital, and they are to face full prosecution. CBN slashes customs FX duty rate. P4 Ondo varsity workers disrupt convocation. That is on page 5. Ondo varsity workers disrupt convocation. Detail is on page 5 of The Nation newspaper. Quickly, we move to Nigeria News Direct. Nigeria News Direct is leading this morning with Wigwe, nothing was impossible. In quotes, with Wigwe, nothing was impossible. Riders, gallants of tributes as Edun, Abiodun, Cardoso, CIBN, professionals hail Wigwe's fearless ambition as Dangote renames road in refinery complex after Wigwe. Lagos pledges to immortalize Wigwe. Of course, Like I said, a number of dignitaries were in attendance yesterday at the burial of the man known as the fearless banker, with whom Dangote says nothing was impossible. You never go to him with a problem and he tells you there is no solution. There is always going to be a solution as long as late Wigwe was involved. Those are some testimonies coming from those who have had businesses and dealings with him, his business associates. Above the masthead of the Nigerian News Direct, federal government to commence public hearing on minimum wage. Said this before. BVN NIN linkage. Consumer Association calls for 3 months extension. Transcorp Power officially lists on Nigeria Stock Exchange. Herdsmen kill soldier, others in Benue community. Herdsmen kill soldier, others in Benue community. That's a very unfortunate one coming from Benue State. And finally, let's go over now to the Punch newspaper, which is going to be our last paper for the day. The Punch is leading with food crisis. OPS warns of shutdown as hoodlums loot more trucks. Building materials, spaghetti trucks attacked in Ogun. Kaduna, 15 arrested in Abuja. Another rider, federal government condemns warehouse looting. Kano stores evacuates wares. States to get free grains. And above the masthead of the Punch newspaper, AFDB plans 2.7 billion naira, $2.7 billion budget agri loans for Nigeria. Dangote names refinery road after Wigwe, page 35. Approach Zimbabwe for solution of inflation, Obasanjo tells federal government. And this is the much we have on top of the masthead of the Punch. Banks involved in 70% financial crimes. Said this before. This is coming from EFCC chair. NSCDC Tompolo men raise Ondo oil thieves hideout. SIM NINCC defense blocking of phone lines. Lawyer slams 10 billion naira suit. Detail of all of this is on page 36 of the Punch newspaper. And with that, we've come to the end of today's newspaper review. We say a sincere thank you for investing your time with us this morning. We'll go on a quick break to join Dr. James Komolafe on the behavioral check segment. Right after that, we'll be back for our first interview of the day. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi out there, great to meet you on this compelling TV talk show on the series of emotional dehydration. Dr. James Komolafe, also known as Dr. Long Life, here for you. You might wonder why long life. Yes, and of course, I want you to live long, young, and strong, giving who you are for what you know and for what you do. Greetings from the School of Articulation and Behavioral Alignment Resources, Saba Resources Intervention Hub, where we handle the good, the bad, and the ugly in order to fine-tune and fulfill you. And today, I want to talk about family emotional dehydration. As it is for the individual, so it is for the family, the basic unit of the society. A family can be drained. Well, there's no family that is not drained. Yes, but you see, you can be emotionally dehydrated as a family. And how does it begin? It can be triggered by a particular cause of event or action. Maybe grief, God forbid, or something bad, tragedy can cause it. Deliberate action in the good, the bad, and the ugly mode can also cause it. It is usually triggered. It does not just happen. Either the dad, the mom, any of the child, a close relation, somebody somewhere may have triggered it. There are issues not properly handled or managed, causing damages. So family emotional dehydration can come to the fore when there are issues we don't handle well. And we have a cliche in cyber resources. We must package to manage in order to avoid the damage. When you don't do that and you just take things for granted, then many people will suffer it. Where you find in a family fault finding, people pick faults and pick holes instead of looking for solutions to situation, then emotional dehydration becomes the order of the day. Where you have lack of cohesion, the head of the home goes to the right, the mama goes to the left, and then the children are just diverted here and there, and you have disjointedness here and there. The lack of cohesion gives room to violation in lifestyle protocol, in habits, and in the very good life. And then where you find no leadership culture, no focus, you are not laser focused. There is no family culture, no routine. Everybody does what he wants, when he wants it, how he likes it. So far, it feels good. Emotional dehydration was coming. So on a very critical note, you need to avoid all this. You need to avoid it. Where you see yourself just doing anything anyhow, you breach protocols in a family. You leave things to just life follow. Emotional dehydration on a family note is the cause. So how do we resolve it? Please come together on a peace table. Identify what the situation is and then seek for solutions. My telephone number is hands-on. You have children who are wayward today, who do all sorts of things. They are into addiction and all that. It begins from emotional dehydration from home. You know what? Till tomorrow. Charity begins at home. Let's help these children and raise them in the way that is proper from home. You have an issue with a child or what? Addiction, depression, suicide ideation. I and my critical team have helped so many across continental waters. Silence is not golden here. Please speak up and out so that you can get help. Online, offline, and on-site. My number, 080-35-999-220. I say it again in case you are not in Nigeria. +234 8035 999 220. I hope you pick a value or two here. Thank you for listening. I wait for your call. Bye-bye.
Welcome back from that very important segment with Dr. James Komolafe. Of course, as always, Dr. Long Life, as he calls himself, always leaves you with tips on how to stay healthier mentally, physically, and as he always says, spiritually. Like I said, anytime the doctor is on, it's always good to have your pen and your paper so that you can jot down some of those very important tips to get you by as we go on. And this now brings us officially to our first interview of the day. Very important one for that matter. We did introduce from the beginning that we're going to be having some guests, and thankfully we have one rightly seated already to help us have this conversation about TB awareness and, of course, gender issues generally. I've been wondering what's the connection. But thankfully, I have someone who is better suited for this conversation. She is, as have it here, Stephanie Gandhi. She is the M&E advisor, gender point of contact, USAID TB LON Regions 1 and 2 Project, KNCV Nigeria. good morning and thanks for being on the program today.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
All right, let's start from the start. TB and TB awareness and gender issues. What's the connection?
Okay. So, in a bid to close the TB gaps, because we're looking for more TB cases.
Okay, sorry. TB, for those who have been wondering,
okay,
is tuberculosis, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so let me just throw more light on that.
All right.
So, tuberculosis, as the name from the abbreviation TB, it's an airborne disease that is caused by a microbacterium, tuberculosis. It's a bacilli that is spread through air. So this can be expelled either by coughing, talking, sneezing, and when an infected person coughs, talks, or sneezes in the air, it can infect somebody who is not having TB. So those are the modes of transmission. It's curable, and the duration for treatment is 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are drugs in country.
It's curable.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a death sentence.
No, it's not a death sentence.
Okay.
It's curable, and the duration for treatment is 6 months. And we have TB services in almost every corner of Nigeria, in all the 36 states and FCT.
Okay, so if we have all of this, treatment centers across the 36 states, including the FCT, as you said, why then do we still have a prevalence of these cases here and there, particularly in our rural communities, where you still have people associating such diseases, especially TB, with some form of spiritual attacks and all of that?
Yeah, so of course, like every other disease burden, there are some challenges, which of course, like you mentioned, there are cultural beliefs, socio-economic challenges that impede access to TB care. So if people are not aware that these services exist, people are not aware that the disease is curable, they won't be able to access this care, and they won't be able to spread the word to other people that actually this cough that is disturbing you can be cured, and you can actually access service in the nearest health center in the community. So people need to be aware, one, and they also need to know that the disease is curable and where to access care. And of course adhere to treatment while accessing care.
Okay, so from your own organization's point of view, what are those activities that you've been embarking on to enhance or to close this awareness gap? Because like you've said, it's more about awareness. People are not aware, and especially these myths and cultural beliefs that surround these diseases, they impede people's access to treatment, even when the treatment most times is just at their backyards. What exactly are the things that you've been doing over the years to ensure that people get more awareness as to what to do and where to go? Okay,
so for KNCV Nigeria and the TB Loan 1 and 2 project, we are saddled with the responsible to conduct community-based activities. Okay. So we go down to we're not just seated in Abuja here and then talking about TB. We go down to the rural communities, down to the wards, down to the typical villages, where we talk, we do conduct community awareness, sensitization activities. We work together with the federal, state, and local government. Okay. So we don't work in isolation. We collaborate with the federal, state, and local government to conduct community-based activities, where we sensitize people on TB, where we direct them on where to access care, and also tell them the basic facts about TB, like the signs and symptoms. The signs and symptoms, and then the duration of the treatment, and importance of adherence to TB treatment, and also how to prevent people within your households or your offices from contacting this TB if you are infected. So you also need to protect yourself and also protect the people around you. You need to protect yourself and protect your loved ones, in case you become infected with TB. So much about TB, but you also undertake gender projects. What are these gender projects? Because when we say gender, the misconception is that people immediately think about that it's a women issues. And when we mention the word gender, people just immediately jump into this is a woman's this is for women.
and all of that. But what are the gender projects that your organization is carrying out at the moment?
Okay, thank you for that question. So I will start with throwing a little light on gender as a topic.
Great.
So gender, as we call it, is not a female thing. It's a socially and cultural belief and perception of an individual sex at birth.
Yeah.
So if you're a male, there's a way people believe that you should act as a male.
Yeah.
If you're a female, people believe that yes, this is how a female should act. So looking at the interventions, we work in 14 states as Kensiri, Nigeria. That's the TB Long 1 and 2 project. We work in 14 states, but for gender-focused interventions,
yes,
we work in 3 states, Katsina, Kano, and Kaduna states.
Okay.
And for these states, we conduct what we call the Waregida and the Majalisa project.
Waregida
Majalisa project. So the Waregida, as the name implies, we look at the housewives,
yes,
who act as gatekeepers in the community. So we train them.
Very powerful people.
Yeah, they are. I must agree. So we train them on TB. We train them about the basic signs and symptoms of TB, and they go down into the communities during their meetings, those their cultural gatherings, and they talk to people about TB. And they also look out for people that are coughing. So they are majorly our ambassadors in the communities.
I must say that I like that concept.
Yeah.
Because when those people fly with your information, you are home and dry.
Yeah. So we don't do that in isolation. We also try to involve the village heads within those communities so that they are aware of what we are doing. And we also try to give them, we have pamphlets on our TB directory services, where if they find somebody coughing for 2 weeks or more, they direct them to the hospital for basic test, TB test. Then for the Majalisa project, this involves young men. Of course, if you go to the communities, you see a lot of young men just gathering around. Yeah. Sometimes they discuss politics, sometimes any thing of interest to them. So we try to indulge them, we try to get them and then train them on TB and how to identify a presumptive TB case. Somebody who is coughing for 2 weeks or more, because people believe that cough is not really, it's not a serious problem, it's not a serious disease. So people, sometimes you find people coughing for almost a month, but they don't, but because the thing is not really affecting them, you don't see them going out to check the cause of the cough. So you see them taking local herbs, you see them taking all these mijingo and all these things so that they can clear tom-tom. So they be like, this cough is just a normal cough without checking to know if that is actually an infection. So we try to indulge these young men, and then they also act as gatekeepers, and they sensitize the community. They go speak in their local dialects, and then they tell people about TB. In the north, they call it tari. So they tell people about cough.
The one that extends, they call it mugun tari.
So they tell people about the importance of going to the nearest hospitals for basic tests. So how the test is done, we get their sputum, and then in very sealed sputum containers, and then this sputum is tested. We test either by the use of GeneSpat, or if there's no GeneSpat machine in that facility, they use the AFB machine. But we always encourage that we use the GeneSpat machine because it gives the result in very short period, just 2 hours. You get your results. But the AFB takes 2 days also.
Now, one thing that is common, especially with projects like yours that involve local community members, is that once they see you and you start having conversations with them, what's ringing in their head is that how much do I, So how do you handle these expectations? Because we've had people who say it has hindered their progress in advancing those community projects, because things that people are supposed to willingly do as volunteers, they expect that you pay them or you give them something as a way for compensation or something. How do you handle these expectations to get your project sailing through?
So for our project, that's the KNCV TB Law 1 and 2 project, involving them in what we do is something that they see, in fact, they see it as something great. So first of all is the involvement. They are part of the program.
Okay.
So we are not just telling them or directing them on what to do. They are part of the program. They are, in fact, they are the ones that report to us. So we, thanks to our sponsors, the USAID, we try to give them stipends.
Okay.
Of course, we give them for communication allowances, and then when they have meetings, because they have monthly meetings, to where they share their data, because we collect data from them, monthly periods. So we collect data, so they share their data, and then we also provide feeding and transportation allowances for them. So that is something. And even if the project ends and we eventually get a new funding line or funding mechanism, we try to bring them back.
Okay.
And so it's always a continuous process, and we also want to maintain sustainability. Even if the project is not there, there are people still working in the community and referring presumptive TB cases.
Okay, so for both TB awareness project and the gender project that you've been involved in, what would you say are some of the highlights of challenges that you've confronted?
Okay, so there are a lot of gender norms and stereotypes. So for the gender norms, you have cultural beliefs, you have religious beliefs. Then you have it's believed in especially the northern area that men are the head of the family, and in some families, in some cultures, if the man does not give you as the wife the permission to go to the hospital, you will not be able to go.
You dare not do that.
You dare not do that. So you're waiting on the responses from your husband, and your disease is also prolonging, and you're also waiting for finances from your husband, because most of these women do not work. So you're looking at challenges in the area of work and in area of access to TB care, access to not just TB care but medical care in general. So until this permission is granted, most women and their children will not be able to access care. So what we try to do, just like I mentioned earlier, when we involve the community heads of these people, it's easier for him to communicate with them and tell them the importance of letting their women go for checkup, letting their women go to the hospitals if they have cough, letting their women socialize and act as gatekeepers and tell people about TB and get involved in TB activities at the community. So we try to balance that. And you know, men have a perceived low health-seeking behavior. If a man is sick, it takes a while for him to actually go to the hospital.
If my wife is watching us now,
to find out what exactly is wrong with him. And it must become severe for him to go to the hospital. You don't just see, like, women are more attentive to their bodies. They are more observant, more vigilant. But for a man, they are looking at, oh, if I go to the hospital, what time am I going to work? What time will I go to hustle and get money for my family? So those are the challenges. So you have a lot of challenges that impede access to health services. And you know, looking at it statistically, men come down with TB more than women. That's reports from WHO, that's World Health Organization. 90% of our cases, of the 90% of our cases, of the total number of cases, 90% of them are male that come down with TB every year.
I think, isn't that explainable? because men go out more, they socialize more.
They socialize more, and you know,
they are
of course,
to more of this.
More exactly, and
TB than women.
And you know, also with their occupation,
yes,
you see a lot of drivers driving long distances. And then
even bricklayers.
So a lot of factors. So, but men are actually changing. They are changing. I think they are changing their perception about access to care. Okay. They are being sensitized every day, and of course, you have just one life. You need to protect yourself.
Definitely.
And
I think it comes with age. When you get to a certain age,
exactly,
you begin to slow down, pay more attention to your health. But you mentioned something, sorry, and I like going back to that conversation, particularly with respect to one of the challenges you mentioned about how men, predominantly in the northern region of Nigeria, are the heads of the family, quote unquote, because they hold economic power.
Exactly.
By and large, that's just it. Whether you say religious or whatever, I think it's more, for me, I look at it more from economic power. Whoever holds the economic power dictates quite a lot of what happens in the family. And because women are more than about 100% reliant upon the men for everything, food and everything, definitely they have to just obey. Now, from your interventions, haven't you seen the need for more economic empowerment of women? Because I believe I've seen families where with or without the husband's permission, as long as the woman can afford it, they go for care. They go for the things that they want. They want. In your interventions, have you seen more need for economic empowerment, especially of the girl child, so that when they grow, they don't become that 100% reliant upon men who, in most cases, are unwilling to give this permission, especially when it involves them paying for it? Okay,
so for KNCB as a project, we don't carry out those skill acquisition exercises for women, but we collaborate with other USAID implementing partners at the community level. So where we collaborate, they try to indulge these women in learning skills like sewing, beading, and knitting, all this knitting of cardigans, and also they try to indulge in, and people have sponsored this kind of programs a lot. We get NGOs sponsoring those programs, but for KNCB we don't sponsor those kind of programs. We only try to collaborate with them and during the sensitization processes, and then also link them to care.
Oh, great.
So while we sensitize them, the other IPs that work basically on gender, because we refer them. We can screen and ask them basic questions, and then we refer them to the OVC partners. So follow on, they do what we call the lives test for them. And so for the lives, they want to listen to them. They want to verify if their stories are true. Of some come up with stories of abuses in their homes, where the man beats them up and locks them up in the room, and of course with that you do not have access to even going to the market or going to even indulge in other activities within the community. So we try to look at those gender-based violences that impede access to care. Because this is becoming alarming in the communities, and even within our homes. You see the man and the woman having a lot of misunderstanding over some issues that makes the woman not to be outgoing. Yeah, so they tend to be withdrawn. They tend to be withdrawn and not socialize with other women in the community.
And that's a breeding ground for
depression. It's a breeding ground for depression, a breeding ground for a lot of things. Some go to the extent of even raping
suicidal
women.
Thoughts.
Yeah, suicidal thoughts. Some go to the point of even raping women. Because if a woman is not happy and you want to have maybe sexual intercourse with them, they will, some might not allow you to do that. And because of the cultural beliefs, which some believe that you cannot say no to your husband.
Yeah.
You cannot say no to your husband despite the condition you're in. You tend to be a slave in your marriage instead of being happy with your children and going out to explore or do what you want to do.
Now, given the prevailing economic situation that we are in, because we're talking about gender issues now, and from the picture you've painted, like I said earlier, most of these things find roots in, the power that the man holds, economically speaking, and this gives him some form of, power over the woman, and in that regard, in that context of marriage, a woman is limited as to the choices that she has. Yeah. Some, instead of bolting out, they can't even try it, even if that's the safest thing to do, and what have you. Now, with this heightened economic situation, are you also looking at, heightening your own interventions? Because if before now we are dealing with 20 cases per community, I want to believe that with the present economic situation, chances are that we have more of these imbalances that leads to abuses in many homes as far as gender relations are concerned.
Yeah, I must agree with you. With the economic situation, there are more gender-based violent cases. As at last quarter, I'll need to check we have a gender-based violence dashboard, where we report cases on, and we collaborate with the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. We have quarterly meetings where all the state Ministry of Women Affairs are there. We have the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. We have all the USAID IPs. We have UN, CDC. They are all part of those meetings, and we as the focal point for M&E, we try to work with their data to see how it's being uploaded on the GBV dashboard. So this GBV dashboard, you can have access to it on request. The Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, they have the password and they can grant you access on request to see the number of GBV cases.
And you say it's been on the increase?
It's been on the increase. Because when the last meeting which we held last December, in fact we saw pictorial diagrams of pictures of people who were abused. Women, in fact women came there with bruises, reporting to. So we also have military parastatals too involved in those meetings. So when it comes to force, because there are some people that do not, when you talk to them, they will not obey until they see a military personnel.
Yes.
So we also involve them in our meetings. So when it comes to adding a little force, we try to involve them so that they can release those women from those kind of bondages. If not, well, of course, not just gender-based violence, we've had deaths.
Wow.
A number of deaths.
Wow.
Yeah, in that regard.
Wow.
So to avoid more deaths, we try to. It's good that people come out early. People come out to talk about their. In Nigeria, if you come out to talk about your situation, a lot of people will criticize you. They laugh at you. They say you're exposing your family. You're bringing your family out there. So most people, they would rather keep all that to themselves and even go into depression than speak about it. So today I'm encouraging everybody, if you're going through any gender-based violence, please come out, speak up. There's help out there. Somebody will reach out to you. We have institutions that when you reach out, they will help you and they'll protect you and they'll give you skills that you you learn and you become a better person in the society.
So actually, you've answered the question that I wanted to ask with respect to improvement in the number of people who come out over the years. So can you share with us success stories from across your projects that you wake up and when you remember, you're proud of what you've been able to do in that regard?
So for my project, which is the TB Law 1 and 2 project, we don't deal directly with gender-based violence victims.
Okay.
But we've noted increasing number of women coming out, increasing number of men coming out to be screened, because when we conduct these activities, sometimes you see very little minimal number of men come out for those community activities. But now you see a lot of them coming out. They are eager to know what it's all about.
Okay.
They are eager to learn and eager to prevent themselves from getting TB. So when we collaborate with the OVC partners, as we screen for TB, they screen for gender-based violence.
Okay.
And gender-based violence is not just about women being violated. Men also get violated.
Okay.
So the number, of course, men try to suppress their feelings.
Man up.
They try to suppress their feelings. Most of them, they don't speak up. But women speak up more. But we are trying to encourage men to also speak up, because there are some women that are that deal with there are women that are terrible in their homes, and of course for so many reasons the man would not be able to the man won't want to be seen as a weakling. So
you rather
endure and maybe indulge in some lifestyle like drinking, smoking, just to get off the stress. So it's a good thing that we are creating more awareness. This is one of them, speaking about these challenges that go on in our communities that impede access to health care and TB services in particular. We want people to reach out to all the general hospitals. There are TB programs in all the states.
Okay.
Tuberculosis control programs in all the states. So if you ask for their offices, if you want to go there, you can go there and tell them of the kind of cough you have and get tested.
Okay.
And they will link you to the nearest health facility. You will get treated and you'll be cured, and also protect your family from being infected.
Okay. Any other thing that you want your viewers to get to know about your projects and all of that?
Yeah, so for our project is a 5-year project which will end by March 2025.
Okay.
We've done a lot of work. We have a lot of data. We've diagnosed a lot of TB cases. We want to encourage everybody out there that TB is not a death sentence. TB is curable, and access to treatment is it's something that you can be granted. There are a lot of facilities out there that you be given the treatment that you need.
Okay.
So don't be shy, don't suppress your cough, and just go out there, get treated and get cured. And you need to be alive to work. You need to be alive to look for money.
Very important.
You need to be alive to stay with your family. So don't let TB kill you. There's treatment, there's and of course people to look after you. Then we also have our World TB Day coming up this month on the 24th.
24th of this month.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we usually have a road walk. We encourage everybody to come out. We have flyers that we distribute. Go to the marketplaces where there's crowd, motor parks. We distribute flyers and we talk. We sensitize people. Use microphones. We talk to people about TB and how they can access. Okay, we even do screening in most of the places where we see that there are a lot of people there, we do on the spot screening and testing their sputums to see how many people are infected with TB. So I'm encouraging everybody to come out for our road walk on the 24th of this month. Join us in the walk, and let's fight to end TB in Nigeria.
Let's come out to join hands to fight and end TB in Nigeria. And there is no better way to put it than that. Of course, it's a collective responsibility. We all have a role to play, particularly for those of us who find ourselves in positions like this. It's our responsibility to continue to talk about these issues and to continue to encourage, particularly those who feel shy, so to speak up about the things that they are going through, particularly with respect to gender-based violence. Be you a woman, be you a man, you must speak up before someone kills you. And then, of course, coughing is not normal. That you have been coughing for 2, 3, 5 days, it's not normal. Relying on those concoctions, relying on Mijingoro and Tom-Tom, you are simply aiding and abating your own death certificate to be issued to you very soon. So, as you heard, TB services, that is tuberculosis services, are available in virtually all the 36 states of the Federation, including the FCT. All general hospitals you can access.
Primary health cares.
And primary health cares also. You can access test and treatment, right?
Yeah.
For tuberculosis, so that you don't die of something that is curable. It's not a death sentence. All those myths about cough, particularly in our local community, you must learn to dispel them. These things are not death certificates, as you've heard it from the expert. And we have to say sincere thank you to you, Stephanie Gandhi.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a pleasure, actually. And so, of course, she is M&E advisor, gender POC, USAID TB Loan Regions 1 and 2 project, KNCV Nigeria. Right. Thank you for coming on board, and we hope to see you again, probably before the TB Day awareness, which you say is on 24th.
World TB Day.
World TB Day, which you say is on 24th of this month. And probably thereafter we'll also again get to call you to come talk to our people about some of these things. Sincere thank you to you for being on the program this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, I will take a quick break now to go join the Investment Plus team for those financial tips to get you through this very, very interesting financial time in economic times. I will be right back after that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Investment Plus. Today we have an episode targeted towards young people, and it's just an advice for you on what you need to do to get started on your journey to becoming rich. Now, if you want to get rich, it's a good goal to have as a young person, but there are things that you must do. Now, getting rich is not just about chasing money around. That's not the way. As a matter of fact, one thing you must know is that becoming rich or money is an aftermath of something. Money is an outcome. Money is a result of something. Money is actually a consequence of something that you've done. So you don't get rich by chasing after money. It is about making smart choices and building a solid financial foundation. So here are some advice for you, young individuals who is ready to take charge of your financial destiny. Number one is invest in yourself. The truth is you need you to succeed. Education is the most powerful tool at your disposal. You have to take the time to invest in your knowledge, in your skills, and your personal development. You must acquire a quality education, whatever that means. It could be within the 4 walls of the school. It could just be that you add on to an existing skill, you upskill, whatever it is. Find alternative learning paths, but you must constantly learn and improve yourself. Continuously learning and adapting to stay ahead is important in this rapidly changing world. Did you know that the skills relevant to the workplace today have really evolved? Do you have them? That's the question. So you must keep investing in yourself. It's not just enough to get a job. You have to keep upping your skill. Advice number 2, develop a strong work ethic. And this is very important for us as young people. Success doesn't come easy. That's the truth. There's a saying that if you see someone, there's a common saying that, oh, he woke up successful. The truth of the matter is if you go and check, that person wasn't sleeping at all. They've put in years and years and years of back-end work. You just didn't know about them. The moment you know about them, we think, oh, it's overnight success, but that's not what it is. It requires a lot of dedication, perseverance for you to succeed, and a strong work ethic. You have to be willing to put in the hard work and go the extra mile. Do more than you're paid for. Be the first to get in. Be the last to leave. Always be responsive. Don't always be the type that when they call you for an assignment, you have excuses. Whether you're starting a business, you're pursuing a career, you're honing your craft, you want to embrace the challenges that come with it and embrace a growth mindset. That takes a lot of hard work. Success is not an overnight phenomenon. Success actually has principles. It is the result of consistent effort and resilience on the part of the pursuer. Advice number 3 is to embrace smart financial habits. You must, at this stage of your life, young and all, cultivate smart financial habits. You must start by creating a budget and sticking to it from right now. I don't care how much you earn. I don't care if you're still getting money from daddy and mommy. Now is the time for you to learn to live on a spending plan. You must save diligently as well. It's a very good skill to have. As a matter of fact, it is a starting point. A lot of people don't save, but that's the beginning of financial stress and woes. So you must learn and build discipline to set aside a portion of your income consistently over a period. Avoid unnecessary debts. As a matter of fact, I don't consider any debts necessary. I know there are good debts, but I don't consider any debt necessary. If you build properly, you may not need to use other people's money. You have to learn to live within your means. Be cautious as well when it comes to impulse purchases and spending. And you must prioritize long-term financial goals over short-term gratification. You haven't met that successful person who doesn't think long-term. Every successful person thinks long-term. There's a saying that I love so much. It says that rich people think 3 generations, poor people think Saturday night, Friday night only. You must remember that small financial habits today can lead to significant wealth tomorrow. Advice 4, invest for the long term. Don't get caught up in get-rich-quick schemes. There's nothing like give us 20K today, tomorrow is 25,000. Speculative investments. Don't get caught up in that. You have to focus on long-term wealth building. Start investing early, even if it's in small amounts. 5,000. Money market today is 5,000. So explore all the options there are out there. Stocks, mutual funds, real estate, whatever it is, explore. Now you can do that. And then practice diversification. Don't put all your monies in the same kind of investment. What if something happens? Imagine during COVID, most industries failed. The medical industry boomed. So you must diversify. It's important to do that. Remember, patience and consistency are the keys to long-term investment success. Advice number 5 is to surround yourself with mentors and like-minded individuals. I always say that I don't know how people do it without mentors. Even the coach needs a coach. You need somebody to guide you. You need someone to speak to you. You need someone to be able to correct you and also show you the path to take. So the people you surround yourself with can greatly influence your financial success. What you need to do is to seek out mentors, and you don't have to have one-on-one with them. You can learn from anybody from a distance. Read their books, subscribe to their newsletters, watch their videos, keep learning from them. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals, your peers and friends who share your ambition and drive. You have to build that network. It's important that you do that. Please know that when you apply these principles, you can actually get started on your way to creating wealth and achieving financial success. That's it on the episode today. Until next time, bye for now.
our first efforts at democracy and self-government were abruptly arrested in the mid-60s, largely as a result of the incongenial atmosphere engendered by the uncompromising stance adopted by the political parties of the First Republic. Thus, opportunities were lost for our people to interact and learn to accommodate different points of view for the betterment of the country. We must not allow that episode to repeat itself. The new system that we'll have adopted presents us with yet another opportunity to achieve national integration, which is a prerequisite for the building of a strong and virile nation.
You're welcome back from that segment of course, Investment Plus, and there you have it from one of our leaders, Shehu Shagari, and those very, very powerful words. We hope that those words inspire you as it has inspired us here this morning. And it's on this note that we draw the curtains on this morning's edition of Aso Morning on Aso Television. My name is Usman Katun Umar, urging you to continue to be law-abiding and be prayerful for our country, because if it's good for the country, it will be good for everyone. Do enjoy the rest of the day till we meet again tomorrow, same time, same station. Bye for now.